All right, welcome to the stream. This will probably be the last live stream of the month, more than likely, except maybe tomorrow I'll end up with um, a little bit of time to stream, but it's a very busy weekend coming up, not the least of which is because of the Super Bowl, an annual tradition here in New England where the Patriots are playing. Maybe we will talk about that if people want me to, but I probably won't do too much sports on today's stream since my audience hates it. Okay, what I will be talking about today are the growing rumors that Bernie's running. I'm going to talk about already Kamala Harris softening her stance on Medicare for all exactly as I predicted. At least some Democrats were going to. I will take super chats. We will maybe open up the phone line. So if this is your first live stream, welcome. I'm just waiting for people to jump on. I tweeted, I posted on Facebook. I didn't do Instagram or Snapchat, the latter because I don't even know how it works. I'm not on Snapchat. But we will wait for some more people to get connected here. If this is your first live stream, these are live as opposed to all of the other stuff we put on YouTube, which is not live. You can use Super Chat to ask questions and send comments. I have some articles I'll be talking about, which are in the video description, but I also will be addressing all questions and comments sent via Super Chat, which is the $ at the bottom of the chat window. One already coming in. Sign up for membership. There are 2 coupon codes in the description for this stream, one of which ends at the end of the month, which is tomorrow night at midnight. That is the code 2019. It'll give you a $60 membership for $20. Well, $20.19. If we get 10 new members during the stream, I will open up the phone lines. It costs us money every time we do that, which is why we usually have like a new member goal on the streams. If people want to call in, I am glad to take phone calls for a while, but we are looking for 10 new members, YouTube members, or patrons. Please don't troll the live chat. I already had to ban one person before we even started the stream, which is depressing to some degree. And yes, you can become a YouTube channel member using the join button, which should be below the live stream. So let's get into the first story, which is that of, is Bernie Sanders going to be running for president in 2020? I have an article which I was going to go over with you from the Burlington Free Press. Let me mute this because otherwise we are probably going to get all sorts of ads. There are more and more reports that indeed Bernie Sanders is getting ready to announce that he's going to run for the Democratic nomination in 2020. Now, that wouldn't come as a surprise to me. I've actually been saying since, when was it? It was in early October. I spoke to 2 people involved with Bernie. I don't really want to say more because they actually could maybe be identified and they weren't speaking officially, but they said Bernie is planning to run and that the question was more a matter of when to announce rather than if. Of course, that's merely what I was told, but now we are starting to hear more and more about Bernie Sanders is starting to ramp up fundraising. Bernie Sanders is getting ready to announce. So there's a couple different things I want to mention about this. Number one is that politically, I am right in there with Bernie. There's no question whatsoever that Bernie Sanders, if he were to run, would be one of, if not the most politically aligned with me candidates. I'm not playing, at least at this point, any of the electability games or who could better deal with Trump's campaign style. I'm trying not to get involved in any of that stuff for the time being because I don't think we can really win that game. We don't know at this point who is going to be best positioned to defeat Donald Trump. But that doesn't mean that I think Bernie is without any problems when it comes to electability, period. So I'll say that. If Bernie were to run, would I support him? I've intimated that the 2 candidates who are right now of the people that are running closest to my politics, they would be Elizabeth Warren and Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang, I will also mention, I am more and more interested in Andrew Yang's candidacy. The more I learn about it. He was a guest on the program a month or 2 ago, maybe longer. Maybe it's been like 4 months. Time is, we're in a vortex of time as far as I'm concerned. Suddenly I'm almost 35, right? So something weird is going on with time. But he is going to be on the program tomorrow, and peek behind the curtain. The interview already took place. It took place a few hours ago. He's building a campaign. I am not getting the impression that he is running, not to insult Richard Ojeda, but I think that his campaign is more serious in terms of its possibilities than Richard Ojeda's. He has run the numbers in terms of what it takes to do well in the Iowa caucuses, given the number of candidates and the number of people that often participate there. So I am very interested in Andrew Yang's candidacy. He told me off air about some very, very important media appearances that he has coming up in the next couple of weeks. So if Bernie runs, am I a Bernie guy? Am I with Elizabeth Warren? Am I with Andrew Yang? I don't know the answer. But I think what's important is that we are getting a diverse range of offerings in the Democratic primary already. And it's not diversity for the sake of diversity. And I'm talking about political diversity here. I'm not talking about identity diversity. I think that it is good because it's going to become, in such a crowded field, important to distinguish between the policy positions of these candidates because they do make a difference. And it very often becomes all about personality and calculations about electability or whatever else. And I think that in particular with a crowded field, the calculations about those issues or about those elements of the campaign, electability and personality, are less important than policy, particularly when running against somebody like Donald Trump. So when might Bernie announce? I don't know. It seems like he might announce soon. I hope that he doesn't announce between now and tomorrow's show, because the conversation that I filmed today with Andrew Yang does not account for Bernie as a candidate. Is Bernie as a possible candidate. But my instinct is that if he is going to run, he's going to announce pretty soon, because otherwise he is going to become very late to the game. I don't think Bernie wants to be like the 10th candidate or the 12th candidate, if indeed we are going to have that many. Let's take a look at what else is in this Burlington Free Press article. Vermont's own Bernie Sanders is reportedly planning to announce his bid for president. Yeah, we knew that. Why am I unable to scroll here? There we go. Sanders, according to multiple unnamed sources in a Yahoo News report, might try another shot at the presidential campaign. He, as we know, lost to Hillary in 2016, not without the DNC's involvement. The unnamed sources delved into different topics revolving around his presidential run, referencing polls that suggest the senator's popularity and saying there are plans to kick a 2020 bid off with an exploratory committee. Yeah, that's what we call the soft launch for campaigns. So like Elizabeth Warren, formally speaking, technically speaking, has announced an exploratory committee. But I think we all sort of understand, unless something changes, she's running. And the benefits of the exploratory committee are that they allow you to save face if ultimately you determine, I really don't want to do this, if things change and you decide it's not looking good for you, for example. But for all intents and purposes, she's running, and it appears, at least according to this article, that Bernie might do the same thing. Our Revolution, a group organized under Bernie Sanders, put out multiple press releases in January about efforts by his supporters to gear up for a 2020 presidential run. The organization's website describes its purpose with 3 specific goals, which are to revitalize American democracy, empower progressive leaders, and elevate the political consciousness. A Free Press Insights piece examined potential challenges that Bernie could face. These include reports of sexual harassment and poor treatment of women in his 2016 campaign, as well as the diversity of other progressive candidates people can choose over Sanders. Okay, so we'll see, and I'd be curious to hear from people in the audience via super chat or in the regular chat, if you so please. What are your feelings about Bernie as a candidate at this point? As I've said, politically, I am very much aligned with him, and if he runs, I will have a very serious examination that will need to be made. He is, by all accounts, to the left of Elizabeth Warren. How does his candidacy potential compare with that of someone like Andrew Yang, who, again, I really like his politics. That will be something that we will get into in much more detail if indeed Bernie runs. Let me mention a few new members and super chats that are coming in. Blackwave54 sent a 99-cent super chat. Thank you. And Ariel Fernandez with a $1.56 super chat. I wish I knew if a $1.56 had some kind of significance that I'm not aware of, or if it's just a random number. But thanks to both of you. I will get back to super chats, assuming that they come in, and memberships, and we'll answer questions and we'll address comments that come in there. I also am up for opening up the phones. If people want to call in at 617-830-4750, I am completely game for opening up the phones. But when we do that, it costs us money because of how our phone system works. It's not a free system. So we're targeting 10 new members, YouTube members, or patrons, okay? You can go to davidpakman.com/membership if you want a David Pakman Show membership. We have 2 coupon codes in play today. The first coupon code is This Is 2020. I know it says Vote Soon 18 on the screen. That's just to tell you where the code goes. That's an old code, though. The coupon code This Is 2020 saves you 40% off of the membership of your choice, okay? So whether you pick the $6 a month membership or the $60 a year membership, whatever, This Is 2020 saves you 40%. But ending tomorrow night at midnight, there is an even better code, and that code is 2019. It's just 2019. That code will drop a $60 a year membership to only $20.19. We've not done something like this for a very long time. We did it in January and we picked up 450. That's not an estimate. We literally added 450 members in January with the coupon code 2019. It ends on the 31st at midnight. Okay. So, but please take advantage of that. And if you want the phone lines to open, grab a membership, throw in $1 a month on Patreon, become a YouTube channel member for as little as, I think $1.99 is where it starts. And we will open the phone lines if we get to that. Okay, let's talk about Kamala Harris. I'm not pleased to tell you this, okay? I predicted this would happen. I didn't know who would do it. And Kamala Harris is the first person to do it. The question has been, is Medicare for All the new litmus test for the Democratic candidates in 2020, okay? It's important to remember that Medicare for All is not the Democratic Party platform, okay? If you look at the Democratic Party platform, their position on getting universal health care, meaning coverage for everyone, is twofold. A public option in addition to the for-profit system that we have, and a Medicare opt-in starting at age 55. Instead of waiting till 65, when you become 55 years of age, anytime between then and age 65, you can opt in to Medicare for All. That's not, you can opt into Medicare. That is not Medicare for All. And what I have predicted is that you are going to see basically every Democratic candidate pay lip service to Medicare for All. They will say things like, I support Medicare for All. I support Medicare for everybody. I think eventually we are going to have it, or something like that. But then they will start to soften their positions by saying, in the short term, I think here are the tweaks to Obamacare that we should make. Or in the immediate, what I would do is make these adjustments to the for-profit healthcare system that we have. Now, I am not naive. I understand that whether a candidate says, I'm for Medicare for all, period, or a candidate says, I'm for Medicare for all, but I'm open to other options, and I think fixing Obamacare is probably simpler to do. I get that either way, Medicare for all is an uphill battle. You're going to need not only the White House, but the House and Senate. It's going to be a fight. It's going to take a while to implement it, even though a lot of the infrastructure is already in place. I get that, okay? But if you already are softening on Medicare for all before there's even a single Democratic debate, before we're even close to a single ballot being cast, you're negotiating with yourself or with insurance companies that are part of the problem. That's the context. Unfortunately, Kamala Harris is already doing that. Okay, let's see if I can play for you, and we might have to sit through an ad. And if so, let's see here. We're not getting audio. Oh, right, because I muted. Good. Okay, so we're going to just stay on mute until we get past this ad. Kamala Harris did a town hall on CNN on Monday evening. She was asked about Medicare for all, and she said, I support Medicare for all. And the question sort of asked pretty directly, let me unmute here. The question was asked, are you okay with getting for-profit insurers out? Take a listen to how she answered the question on Monday night.
What's your solution to ensure that people have access to quality health care at an affordable price? And does that solution involve cutting insurance companies as we know them out of the equation?
I believe the solution, and I'm actually feel very strongly about this, is that we need to have Medicare for all. That's just the bottom line.
Pretty straightforward, right? We need Medicare for all. That's it. I mean, we just that's the bottom line, and she said she was proud to say it. Unfortunately, within like 24 hours of this, she started to be attacked for what she said. Howard Schultz started piling on, and there were tweets from Republicans. And as CNN reports, as the furor grew, a Harris advisor on Tuesday signaled that the candidate would also be open to the more moderate health reform plans, which would preserve the industry being floated by other congressional Democrats. It represents a compromise position that risks angering Medicare for all proponents who view eliminating private health care, private health insurance as key to enacting their comprehensive reform. So listen, I get it. This isn't a, so then they point out her willingness to consider alternate routes should not cast doubt on her commitment to the policy of single payer system. She's softening. Okay. I'm not saying she's a bad person. She might be, she might not be. I don't know. I don't know her. I'm not saying she's the only one to do this. And I'm not saying that being open or not to other ideas is going to be what determines whether we do or don't get Medicare for all in the end. Need the House and Senate and a whole bunch of other stuff. But it's January. It's January. And why is this already being clarified? The response here should be, we have the system that my critics are saying is the right system, right? People are saying, whoa, you're going to get rid of for-profit health insurance? It's not ultimately going to be just up to her or whoever wins in 2020 to keep or get rid of the for-profit healthcare system. It doesn't need to be said that she's open to other ideas. If you want Medicare for all and you can't get it, any reasonable person is going to say, well, I want Medicare for all. I don't have the Senate right now. I can make these 5 improvements to the system we have. Let's make them. Okay. Most elected officials are the Ted Kennedy incrementalists rather than the it's all or nothing, burn it all down if I can't get Medicare for all. This doesn't need to be said. Okay. What I want to see Democratic candidates saying when they are attacked for just very uncontroversial statements like we should have the system that's working really well in most other developed countries, they should say, listen, I'm not going to sit here and pay lip service to for-profit insurance companies that are a big part of the problem. They exist. They have a lot of lobbying dollars behind them. They're not at risk because I say I support Medicare for all alone. It's going to be a process. It's going to be a negotiation, but I'm not negotiating with anybody right now. I'm for Medicare for all, period. We all know that the for-profit insurance companies will fight it, that even with Medicare for all, you will still likely have for-profit insurance companies available, although, of course, most people probably would not opt to get private insurance. And that's it. So I am extraordinarily disappointed to already see her softening on this. It's not the most surprising thing in the world. I predicted it would happen. They're going to pay lip service, and that's what it's going to be, and many of them are going to back off. Reminder, the default for Democrats should not be assumed to be support for Medicare for all. The Democratic Party, I know I said this 10 minutes ago at the beginning of my rant, and now I'm going to say it again. The Democratic Party has a position on their website right now. If you go and look at it under providing universal coverage, I think is what they call the heading. And it says what they want is a public option and opt in for Medicare at age 55. That's nothing like Medicare for all. It's better than what we have now, of course. So anytime we hear any Democratic candidate say they're for Medicare for all, we want to ask more questions. And if they soften like Kamala Harris, then we want to ask even more questions because it's exactly what I predicted would be going on. Okay, I've got new members, patrons, YouTube subscribers, and super chats to mention. So first and foremost, welcome to Rodrigo Clark. Rodrigo, thank you. You have signed up using the This is 2020 coupon code on our website. That is 1 out of 10 new subscribers on the way to opening up the phone lines tonight. What will probably be, if you're just joining me, the last stream of the month. Benoit Graham or Benoit Graham, new member using the coupon code 2019. This is the biggest coupon code of the year. The coupon code 2019. Put it in when you sign up at www.joinpacman.com. It will drop a $60 membership to $20.19. It only works with the $60 membership, okay? So you've got to switch over to the yearly options. Make sure $60 a year is selected. You hit the sign up button, and then you put in the code 2019. Boom! Drops a $60 membership to $20.19. Ends tomorrow night at midnight, and we have 2 out of 10 new members so far. If we get to 10, I'll open up the phone lines. All right, let's see what we have going on here for super chats and comments. Brian Stevens sends a $2 super chat, which to that point was the biggest super chat of the evening. Bernie/Elizabeth Warren or Elizabeth Warren with Bernie is the perfect ticket. I don't know about that, Brian. I'm not trying to do who's most electable right now, but if we play that game, I don't know that two Northeastern liberals are the right ticket. I'm not saying on policy, I love it, right? Elizabeth Warren and Bernie are the two senators closest to my politics. I don't know that that actually is the most electable ticket, but I don't even care about that right now. We're not doing electability games right now. Veronica McDavitt with a $5 super chat. Now the highest of the evening. Really enjoy your shows. Thank you, Veronica. Appreciate your support. Ryan Couture with a $2 super chat. Howard Schultz's existence is annoying. Yeah, listen, even if Starbucks coffee weren't atrocious, and I know why it's atrocious, and it's because, anyway, we don't need to talk about why, but it's bad. His presence as a possible independent candidate would be very, very annoying to me because it's if anything, it's going to help Trump win. That's it. And because we have this what would we call it? Wealthophiles in our society. If you're a billionaire, you get media appearances and you are treated like you are good, smart, and talented merely because you made a lot of money. And that's not always the case. It's often not the case. And I find Howard Schultz's presence, even as a possibility in this 2020 presidential election, I find it annoying. I think he's going to go away because he's getting crushed by a lot of people for his mere involvement. Robert Klobber with a $5 super chat. I love Bernie, but his age does worry me a little, which is something Obama had as a younger candidate. AOC is another example recently. Huge buzz. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think it's inappropriate to consider age when you look at candidates. The age difference between Trump and Bernie is not that big. And the truth is, Bernie appears to be in much better physical condition than Donald Trump. Let me see if I can, what is exactly their age difference? So Trump right now, June 14, 1946. Okay. And Bernie Sanders, 1941. Okay, so they're 4.5 years apart. Yeah, but again, Trump's obese, right? I mean, unless you believe that he's 6'3" and weighs, I think it was 239, we were told, or something like that. Trump's obese. I've seen Bernie play basketball a bunch of times in the last couple of years. I think on health, if it's just on health, I think I still choose Bernie over Trump, but I don't think that it is incorrect to consider age when we think about candidates. I'm just not there right now, and Bernie hasn't even said he's running yet. Alejandro Alvarez with a $3.50 super chat. Thoughts on the hashtag Never Bernie? Tag feels like 2016. I have not seen it used that much. I saw some people on my Facebook friends list using the Never Bernie thing. I'm really not paying much attention to it. So, we'll deal with that if and when Bernie runs. Blackwave54 with a 99-cent super chat. Thank you. Very much appreciate it. Corey Gorski with a 10 Canadian dollar super chat. Thank you. Most right-wing commentators infuse and espouse philosophy when arguing their policies. You tend to stay away from that line of argument. Is it because philosophical arguments can be easily twisted? Corey, thank you. Okay? Thank you for asking this question because this relates to a lot of what I have talked about on the show. Here's the thing about, so when you say they talk about philosophy, there's often too much of a focus on principles. Here's the problem with the focus on principles. Many on the right, and some on the left, but many on the right, like to create an infrastructure for policy where they say it's all simply their principles. And they will often lay out these very broad principles like, I am for freedom at every opportunity, or something like that. And they like to pretend that if you simply lay out principles like freedom and liberty, small government, the non-aggression principle, right? So I'm kind of building up libertarian principles. They pretend, sometimes naively, sometimes out of bad faith, they pretend that if you merely lay out your principles clearly enough, all of the policy becomes obvious and clear, and the principles inform what the policy should be. The problem with that is that most of the tough stuff in life is because principles don't actually inform exactly what the policy should be. The devil is almost always in the details, and they like to pretend, and it's one of the most infuriating things, they like to pretend that by very clearly laying out principles, the policy solutions are going to be obvious for every problem. So I don't stay away from philosophy and principles as a primary topic because I think it's irrelevant or because I think it's not important. I read a ton of philosophy, and I think trying to establish in some kind of objective way what are our morals and guiding principles and all of that stuff, it's really, really important. But it's often a distraction when it comes to actually figuring out what policy should be. If you believe in both liberty and freedom from aggression, at a certain point, you're going to have to figure out how do you balance the two? Because someone's liberty to be aggressive, most libertarians would say stops when you start to impinge on someone else's ability to enjoy their life. But where exactly do you draw the line? They like to pretend that a list of principles gives you these answers. It doesn't. The other reason why philosophy is really difficult in politics is that a lot of philosophy, much like just coming up with a bunch of principles, right, a list of principles, a lot of it depends on universality, meaning that you are coming up with either principles or ideas or policies that apply in every situation. It's just not very realistic. I mean, even seemingly uncontroversial black-white principles like killing is wrong, even that does not always apply. And this is not me doing this moral relativism game where anything can mean anything. Listen, with moral relativism, I mean, yes, to some degree, humans can come down in different places when it comes to morality, but we are all objective in our morality, and that we are all Homo sapiens. We are all interpreting the world via eyesight through the human eye. And, the idea that once you open up the door to some relativism, you're opening up the door to literally anything, that's also wrong. So I try to stay away from these universals, not because I'm a moral relativist in any particular sense, but because it often just gets us nowhere. It really doesn't tell us about what should the tax rate be? How should we prioritize spending? What should the laws be around vaccination, right? I mean, a lot of these things, they're simply not going to be answered with the universals. Anyway, that's a huge rant. But that's my answer to that, Corey. Let me welcome Keith Hoyt, who is tonight's third new member. If we get to 10, I'll open up the phone lines. Eritro Pathak says with a $5 super chat, why is there such a large number of Jews, Chinese, Middle Easterners, and Indians in what ought to be a truly American university at Brandeis? I have no idea. I mean, I don't know what's implied in your question. I'm going to assume you're asking in good faith. I couldn't tell you why that's the case at Brandeis. I know that Brandeis is a historically, in the same way that some colleges are historically black colleges and universities, Brandeis has a sort of historical Jewish population, I guess we would say, and then that would be maybe a factor. But I could not possibly comment on the dynamics of admissions practices at Brandeis University, a school I've never gone to, by the way. I went to Bentley University, which is another business school in Waltham, Massachusetts, but not Brandeis. Frank Wolftown says, if Bernie's age bothers people, we should have a young minority progressive like Nina Turner to be the vice presidential pick. Okay, well, I don't know. I mean, just because you're bothered by Bernie's age doesn't necessarily mean that Nina Turner should be picked merely for her age. Not sure I'm with you there, Frank. Justin Davis, would Harris win over Trump voters due to her extreme law enforcement background and policies? I don't know, and I don't care. I mean, I think that's the wrong game to play. As I said before, I just don't think that. I'm increasingly skeptical of Kamala Harris, because number one, her record as Attorney General in California has some holes in it that are concerning to me. And number two, she's already softened on Medicare for all, as I told you about 15 minutes ago. Yesenia Moreno says, Bernie, Andrew Yang 2020, Yang will be 46 in 2 years. That is actually interesting. The idea of bringing in Andrew Yang alongside Bernie, who is a young candidate. If you missed it, I mentioned that I recorded an interview with 2020 candidate Andrew Yang earlier today. It'll air tomorrow. He made a funny comment about being the opposite of Trump because he's an Asian guy who likes math versus, I guess, being an old white guy who doesn't really know much about math or writing or reading. I don't know, or much of anything at all. Art Flores says, at what point in your life had you decided you would be doing the show full time? Were you ever afraid of it not being successful? Thanks, David. Yeah, I mean, listen, Art, I started the show when I was a junior, working on my bachelor's degree at the University of Massachusetts. And then it continued just as a hobby when I went into graduate school where I did my MBA. And as we were getting to the end of graduate school, the show started to make a little bit of money. We had like part-time staff, and I was doing, I think it was 2 shows a week at the time. And my classmates were becoming financial advisors. I had already done a financial advising internship. Absolutely not for me. Going into banking. Some were going into audit and sort of like consulting type stuff. That was a popular one at Bentley when I was graduating. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. And what I decided to sort of do is kind of gamble on the idea that in the short term, they might have the cushy situation working for like a Big Four consultant or who knows what, but that I would maintain autonomy, which was always really important to me when I've had to work for like a boss. And we start at 9:05 a.m. and you came in at 9:10 today, and that's really a problem for me. That stuff was never for me. So I took a gamble and I worked some part-time jobs doing video production and some other stuff while I grew the show. And at a certain point, I said, I'm just going to give this a shot. And of course, it did not start quickly. This has been 12 years in the making at this point, or even more. But now it's more than full-time for me. We're spinning off an ad agency from the show because of the success of our ad sales platform. We have multiple full-time staff. So, obviously it worked out. I still don't have a boss other than everybody who's watching, right? Everybody could say, we're not going to watch, we're not going to contribute anymore. So that's why, I mean, there's this kind of amorphous thing where sometimes you hear me say, we're mostly funded by the audience. And it's like, yeah. No, that's literally true. And the reason that I'm still doing this and that it's been able to grow is because people say, this is good enough. This is worth it for me enough to support it financially. So in a sense, I do have bosses, but it's not one boss, probably male, telling me I was 5 minutes late coming into work yesterday. And yeah, afraid of not being successful. I mean, even still, if the show never grew beyond where it is today, I would be disappointed. Fortunately, we've had steady growth for 12 years, but if this was it would be a disappointment to me. Brody Andrew Mulligan says, what's Bernie's biggest strength and weakness in your view? Strength, I would say, are his policy positions and the way that he defends them economically. So when he talks about Medicare for all, he knows exactly how it would be paid for. When he talks about free tuition at public colleges and universities, he has a plan for how it would be paid for. Do Republicans care? No, but he has it. And I think that that's a strength. Weakness, I think it's an electability thing. And I'm not saying he would or wouldn't have defeated Trump. I'm just saying he is open to attack from the right in a bunch of different ways. So was Hillary, though. And we know how that ultimately worked out. Craig Adolph says, Sam Cedar says you stole his set design. What do you have to say for yourself? If he actually said that on his show, please send me a clip. I want to see that. I admit that I stole it. I mean, I literally, he helped me steal it. Sam, is it theft if he helps? I contacted him and I said, hey, I want to keep a monitor behind me, but I want to mix it up in some other way when we move studios. I like the thing you have behind you. How'd you build it? And he literally sent me a link to the product he bought. So I can't imagine that he's hugely surprised. And if he actually said David Pakman stole it, he's basically telling the truth and he condoned it. But yeah, the one change I'm thinking of making, and I actually have, maybe I can show you here. I have here with me, this might look weird on camera, but these are orange. You can see kind of some orange here. These are orange gels that I'm thinking of adding to add a little more color because it's all very cool tones right now on the set. So I have these pieces of lighting gel, and I'm thinking about maybe putting a little bit of this color, maybe on this one, maybe that one there, or maybe that one down there, and this one here, just to kind of warm up the tones a little bit. But, you know, not everybody is going to like changes that we make. In fact, we often hear more from people who dislike changes, but it's all worked out in the long run. So I think it's gonna be okay. Let me say thank you to Larry Enickson, who is today's 4th new member during the stream. If we get to 10 new members, I will open up the phone lines. Woke Nation is asking, is it going to hurt Bernie to delay his bid? I think if he delays too much longer, he's going to be behind. And every indication is if he's running, I expect we will hear from him in the next 4 weeks. Patrick Sweeney says, would Hillary running again be a net positive? In other words, splitting the corporate vote, embarrassing herself with a bad showing. Love the show, man. Nope. I think Hillary should stay out. I don't think it's a net positive. And I think, I think that's it. I think there's going to be plenty of good candidates without Hillary. Aritro Pathak follows up saying, Kamala means orange in Indian languages. Only fitting she should be the candidate to take on Trump. Also, should Rave Dubin debate Sam Cedar? Yeah, I'm for the battle of ideas and more conversation instead of less, and all of that stuff Dave's for. So yes, Dave Rubin should debate Sam Cedar. Horror Fan for Life says, hey, what's your view on Jesse Ventura? Great show. Jesse Ventura says some things that make sense, and he also says a lot of really crazy stuff. I've had him on the show 2 or 3 times, and, you know, I don't find him to be the most interesting political player right now. Dream Cloud, do you have plans or have you made plans to go on the Joe Rogan podcast? I have made those plans. Joe is just totally unaware of it. So at some point, he's going to have to participate if it's going to happen. I would love to go on anytime. He retweeted something of mine last month. And I've heard through the grapevine that Joe is more than just aware of the David Pakman show. He and comedian Bill Burr talked about an incident I was involved in last month. I won't rehash the whole story now, but I'm ready. I'm ready to get on the plane and head out to LA anytime. Let's see. Comp Sci Law says, okay, Canadian. Americans say universal healthcare is bad. Look at Canada. We love our system. Wouldn't trade with an outlaw wouldn't trade with and outlaw private care. Wouldn't trade. I'm not exactly sure what they're saying, but don't allow a hybrid system. Yeah, I just don't know how you outlaw private care in the US. But if a single payer system were good, nobody would get the private care. So I think that problem will resolve itself. Orphic is a new YouTube member. The Doomsday Channel is a new YouTube member, which gets us to 6 new members during the stream. And Kyle Mask has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership with the coupon code 2019. That gets us to 7. We're getting very close to opening up the phone lines. Reminder, this ends tomorrow night at midnight. Our memberships normally cost, okay, the normal price is $6 a month or $60 for the year. Until tomorrow night at midnight, if you select a $60 a year membership, but then type in the coupon code 2019, you will get a $20.19 membership for as long as you want, okay? 7 out of 10. If we get to 10 new members, I'll open up the phones. If people don't want me to open up the phones, no problem. Then I won't. But if people do, we are just 3 new members away from that. Saridi Ahmed Yahia says, is you're not even going to be affected by the tax raise a good argument? I don't think it is. It's okay. So this is a fair question. It's not a great argument in formal logic, right? So whether a tax increase or decrease is a good or bad idea should not be informed by how it will impact interested parties. We should be able to establish what is the right level of taxation in a disinterested manner. And I feel like I am doing an okay job of this because I now make more money than I did 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, I made more money than I did 10 years ago. But I've basically had the same view on taxation, even though the amount of taxes I pay has gone up over time, which is we should have a progressive tax system and we should have some high marginal tax rate for really high incomes. The top tax bracket shouldn't start at, I think it's $510,000 is where it starts right now. The top tax, there should be higher brackets with higher marginal tax rates. I would like to think that I would take that position no matter what my income is. But no, strictly speaking, that's not a good argument. However, I think it is fair in more informal political debate to mention to people, you know that you're not going to be affected by this, and the only people who are make over $5 million a year or whatever the case may be. I think that can be effective in sort of informal, what we call rhetorical argument. Woke Nation, why don't you combine podcasts with Kyle and Mike? Who's Mike? Kyle Kalinske, I assume you mean. Why don't we combine podcasts? Listen, I know that a lot of Kyle's audience doesn't like me. I know that a lot of my audience doesn't enjoy Kyle's style. So I think it would be a bad idea to combine podcasts. I don't exactly know why we would do that. Stephanie Thomas, welcome as a new member. That makes 8 new members during the live stream. If we get to 10, I will open up the phone lines. Jennifer Arbuckle, Medicare only pays 80%, so grandma and grandpa have to either pay or get supplemental insurance. So that is where private insurance companies step in. Yeah, I think that's a fair point, Jennifer, which is that I don't think it's assumed that even with Medicare for all, there's no role for private insurance. There's also no hard and fast rule that says Medicare can only pay 80%, right? I mean, so if you look at other countries, they've figured out ways in many of those countries for the equivalent of Medicare for all, which again it's not a takeover of the healthcare apparatus. It's a takeover of the health insurance apparatus. It's really important to understand. You can have government health care or you can have government health insurance still paying, reimbursing a mix of private and public health insurance, healthcare providers. But that's a fair point, Jennifer. There are many situations in which you would still have a very clear spot for private insurance. Woke Nation, Figueredo. Yeah, I butchered his name at the Humanist Report. Yep, yeah, I'm familiar with him. I don't know if I don't watch anything, so I'm not exactly sure where his politics are, but I'm asking the question, not rhetorically, but in totally good faith. I'm not 100% sure if he is exactly aligned with the sort of wing of the left that I sort of consider myself part of. I'm not really sure. Welcome to Stefan Signard, or Stephen, who is the 9th out of 10 new member during today's live stream. One more new member, and I will open up the phone lines, okay? Faye D with a $5 New Zealand super chat. Hey, David, fan and member from New Zealand here. How did you learn to deal with critics and hatriots? I like that you make fun, but does it ever affect you? Yeah, I mean, listen, the stuff that we put on air or that I post on my Instagram, and by the way, if you're not following me on Instagram or following the show on Instagram, please do, because there's a bunch of really good, we put polls up there. I answer questions on there. We've got behind the scenes content. Anything that we put up publicly, we've already sort of vetted. If we get something that we determine to be like a real threat, we have a contact in law enforcement that we work with on that stuff. You just kind of get desensitized to it, quite frankly. But yeah, I mean, sometimes someone will figure out exactly how to push my buttons, and I'll find myself starting to type out replies online, and then I'm like, what am I doing? I'm arguing on the internet with people when I have a show where I could actually talk about politics in a more productive way. I delete it. I shut down my computer, throw it out the window, and go read a book and wait for the next day. D. Ken UCLA, what do you think of Elizabeth Warren's tax plan? You know, I have not reviewed it in detail yet. I know that she's proposing this wealth tax, which is very different than an income tax. I've not reviewed it. I plan to, and I will have a full report for you. But it is very, very interesting to see a member of the Senate propose something like that. Horror fan for life. David, how is it legal for fake news Hannity to be so close with Trump while parroting all of Trump's BS? Seems very dictator 1984-like, super scary. LHU. What's LHU? LHU. I don't know what that abbreviation is. Super scary LHU. Huh. Yeah, I'm perplexed by that one. Yeah, I mean, listen, what crime is being committed? I don't know of any crime that it's disgusting. It's despicable. It's concerning that Hannity, a propagandist like Hannity, is in such regular contact with Trump, but I don't know of anything that would make it against the law. Okay, Chris Massaloni is today's 10th new member of the evening. So let's open up the phone lines and see what's going on. 617-830-4750 is the number. You can call in starting now. I have unblocked the phone line. 617-830-4750. By all means, keep sending super chats and signing up, because I will get back to all of those, but I will take some phone calls for a little bit and see what is on people's minds. They can be about anything. No speakerphone, please. Avoid Bluetooth headsets, but plug-in headsets usually are fine. 617-830-4750. Let's see. Why don't we go to the 323 area code. Caller from 323. Who's there?
Hello.
Oh boy. 323?
Hello.
That is you. What's going on?
Here? Hi, David. Big fan of the show.
Thank you.
First time caller. I'm really nervous.
That's all right.
If Bernie were to enter the primary, it's pretty obvious that the millennial vote needs to get out there, seeing as he got more votes than Hillary Clinton and Trump in the millennial column. Do you think that same turnout will come out to him in 2018 if he does decide to run?
It's all about turnout. We can't say. And that's why I've been pointing this out now for Honestly, since Trump was elected, this is all about turnout. So predictions about why one candidate or another would do well are all conditional. And so I don't have the answer. Obviously, if indeed the millennial vote is strong and it goes to Bernie, that's great. If millennials who tend not to vote in nearly as high numbers as others don't get out, then it's not going to be much use.
Oh, okay then. Well, thanks for taking my question, David.
All right, no problem. You did great. Despite being nervous, you did very, very well. Let's go to the 480 area code. 480, what's going on?
Hey, David, it's Miles from Arizona. I guess I have a couple of questions. My first one is, first, did you hear about Mitch McConnell insulting federal workers? Like, he said something about, like when federal workers ask for a holiday, he's kind of like, oh, it's this power grab by the Democrats and stuff.
Miles, your connection is atrocious today. I didn't hear that, but I am going to cover the fact that while not co-sponsoring a bill to get back pay to all the contractors that weren't paid during the shutdown, he is co-sponsoring a bill to repeal the estate tax on families with more than 22 million in assets to pass on. So the guy's disgusting and despicable.
Okay. And also, recently someone was talking to you about a bet about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez running for president and a bet. Well, forgetting the bet, would you want to see AOC someday run for president?
I couldn't. So based on the knowledge she has today, no. I mean, most of the candidates that are currently in the Democratic primary, I believe would be better presidents than her. I still hear her
I
sound.
don't mean 2020, or I mean like 10 years from now.
Right.
Not like
So let me,
2020, but like,
Miles, you're shot out of a cannon today. What I'm telling you is,
sorry.
if in 10 years or whenever she's old enough to run, her political knowledge is such that I feel comfortable, then we can have a conversation about it. But we don't know what that's going to be in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, she just seems like a Bernie Sanders 2.0, but I understand. Yeah, like 10 years, like not immediately, but definitely would want some stuff down the line. I just think there's great things ahead of her, in my personal opinion.
She
Great
certainly
things
seems
ahead
to have
for
a
her,
big
in my
a
personal
big
opinion.
career ahead of her for sure. All right, Miles, thank you. Appreciate the call. Let's go to, oh, I don't know. There's so many people. Let's see what area codes I recognize. 305, I think, is Miami, and I love Miami Beach. So although I think Miami Beach has its own area code, but in any case, 305, who's there?
Can you hear me, David?
Yes, I can.
All right, this is Brian. Yeah, I'm in Miami.
Cool.
So I just have a quick question. Just regarding how toxic sometimes the internet can be. You could find this like on YouTube comments, on Reddit.
Yes.
Pretty much everywhere. So I just wanted to know your opinion about how that can like truly influence a society.
Oh,
Just constantly
it's
being
absolutely
surrounded by
negative. I mean, it's
toxicity.
completely destructive. It's horrible. The toxicity of the internet, the way people engage on Twitter. I mean, what you've got to remember is even most of the most toxic people on the internet, if you put them physically in front of the people that they're bullying online, they're going to behave in a much more reasonable manner. Not everybody. There are people who do bad things in real life too. But I think that the way internet political debate happens is one of the most destructive and toxic forces in our politics today.
So if you don't mind me just like quickly asking, how would you suggest kind of like getting that balance between living in, the world where you could utilize technology and also kind of like staying genuine so you could actually get something done? All the trolling and just like a lot of hate.
I mean,
like it
I would
really sets us
recommend,
back.
I'm only starting to read it, but I would check out Cal Newport's, actually, I don't even know if this book is out. I might just have a review copy. It may not even be out. The book is called Digital Minimalism, and it's all about exactly what you're talking about, sort of like developing healthy social media use and consumption. And we're scheduled to interview him, I don't even know when, next week, the week after, I'm not sure. But I think that an approach like that is really what is the healthiest thing.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, David.
All
Have a
right.
great one.
Appreciate the call. Great to hear from you. Let's see. Let's go to the 202 area code. I think 202 is the nation's capital. Is that right?
That is right.
What's going on? I like that ding. You announced your entrance with a ding.
Yeah, that was my computer.
Oh, okay.
I have a question. What would Larry Hogan and/or John Kasich in a Republican primary mean for Donald Trump? I've heard that there are some people who want to just skip the Republican primaries altogether, but there are quite a few people who don't. Powerful people like Susan Collins, maybe, don't take my holy word on that, does not want Trump on the 2020 ticket. And so what would like Larry Hogan or John Kasich primarying Trump mean for him? Could they actually beat him?
Listen, they could if the Republican Party at the Senate and House level is with Trump. It's going to be very difficult to win a primary against a sitting president. Okay, so I wouldn't get expectations up, but that doesn't mean that particularly Kasich can't damage Trump. If Kasich pulls Trump into, if Kasich can get enough support to at least cause Republican primary debates to happen, for a sitting president to have to do primary debates would be very damaging because it's only downside, right? He's not going to win. Trump's not going to win Democratic votes by having to debate John Kasich, but he might lose some Republican votes. So I think it's going to be insanely unlikely that a Republican beats Trump in the primary unless the party abandons him, but it can only possibly weaken him. And for that reason, I support it.
Also, two other things. One, Larry Hogan is actually a business success, and I could see him going after Trump because Trump has bankrupted. There's an internet video, 10 of Donald Trump's businesses that completely failed. Larry Hogan is a business success story, and he could use that against Trump.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that?
Yeah, maybe he could say, at least my businesses haven't gone bankrupt.
He had at least one, and it was fantastic. Also, fun history fact: there's only one president who's ever lost their own primary upon re-election, and that was Franklin Pierce.
Well, there you go. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that fact.
All right, have a great day.
Okay, thanks. You too. Sounded like speakerphone, but it was good enough that I wasn't going to delay the phone call with that. Okay, let's go. Let's go to the 917 area code. 917 New York?
Yeah, it is, David.
Nice. What's going on?
How's it going? So my question is, do you think we should nationalize all inelastic goods, not from a sense of morality, but as a sense of, if it's cheaper, shouldn't the government, control that function if profit's gonna, make it more expensive? Like a good example of this is healthcare, water going into people's houses. I just don't think things like broadband internet or other inelastic goods and services should have a profit incentive.
Very good question. So I'll explain to the audience an inelastic good, or what we're talking about is goods and services with inelastic demand. When demand is elastic, when the price goes up significantly, demand goes way down. So if all of a sudden avocados cost $20 each, way fewer people would be demanding avocados. Healthcare, for example, is inelastic in the sense that basically you're either in need of healthcare services or you're not. The demand is not elastic with price. Even if all of a sudden, antibiotics become crazy expensive, you're not going to see decreased demand because people don't take antibiotics for fun. You either need antibiotics or you don't. My concern is I don't know if I would say all inelastic goods because there might be counterexamples. There might be inelastic goods that there's not a strong case for the government to get involved in. I mean, certainly with healthcare, I agree with you, but I'd have to think about it. There might be some examples where I would not be on board, but I've not really considered it in those terms.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for your answer, David. Just
All
one
right.
more quick thing.
Yeah.
Considering how bad the weather is right now, I don't know if it's as bad as Boston, but New York's very, very windy and snowy today.
Mm-hmm.
I have a couple Trumpist friends and family members who'd like to point out that just because the weather is cold, that obviously has nothing to do with the climate, but they say, oh, global warming is really kicking in now. What's a good rebuttal for that?
Kick them out of your life. Yeah, I wouldn't talk to those people.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. Thank you,
it's
David.
just, I mean, listen, it's, weather versus climate. It's two different things. We dealt with it yesterday, but at this point, if people still believe that, it's like, that's probably someone that is more of a problem than they're probably dragging you down more than they're lifting you up would be my guess.
I think that's what I needed to hear. All right. Thank you, David.
All right, take care. Let me know if you do cut anybody out, though. Let's see. A lot of people on the phone today. Why don't we go to? All right, I'll go to a prior caller. I haven't heard from Grover for a while. What's going on, Grover?
Hey, David.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing?
Good.
Hey, Dave, I have some few things to let you know. So first of all, amazing show, by the way. And the thing is, I have seen your ads playing for the BetterHelp. Just to let you know and to catch up with you, and since I know you don't watch YouTube, there was a whole issue about BetterHelp. So as a suggestion, I will watch out for that particular ad.
Yeah, so
To
Grover, I'm aware of that
uh
issue. There were two issues with BetterHelp during which we suspended all ads for them until these issues were resolved. Okay. The
Correct.
first issue is that people said, the terms and conditions for BetterHelp say, this is one of our advertisers for people who don't know what Grover's talking about. The terms and conditions said that BetterHelp was not ultimately responsible if the credentials of one of their online therapists was not what they claim it to be. And this was
Correct.
misunderstood as BetterHelp doesn't verify credentials. So BetterHelp has now updated their terms and conditions. And what they've explained is that they do verify that every single one of their therapists is not only licensed in the state where they practice, but also has 1,000 hours of clinical experience. That disclaimer is a very legal thing. Uber has something that's identical for their drivers. And what happens is all of these companies initially do verify the credentials, licensing, insurance, whatever of their service providers. But for legal reasons, they put that in because imagine that a month after a new therapist or Uber driver is accepted into the system, they lose their credential for whatever reason. BetterHelp wouldn't immediately know that. And so for legal reasons, they put that in there, but they've clarified that issue. The other one was about like a money back guarantee. And they've now also added that into their terms and conditions. So I'm reasonably satisfied that those issues have been taken care of. So that's why they're back to advertising with us.
Okay, thank you. And last one I wanted to say is that I have been spreading your show. I don't want to say, but as a joke, I would just say as herpes, but it's a joke. Don't take it too serious.
Sorry, you
And
what? You've
also,
explained that the show has herpes?
no, I have spreading your show like herpes.
You're
It's a
spreading the show
joke,
like
by the
herpes.
way.
Oh, good, good. I hear it that
Yes,
spreads really quickly. It's never gotten
yes.
me, fortunately, but I do hear it spreads very quickly. Grover, great to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Before I pick up on a couple other folks, Brian Walters, new member on YouTube. Thank you. Roy Earl says, David, I generally agree with you and Kyle on politics, but lately he's been a Maduro apologist. I feel like Kyle is being sympathetic to the Leninist left to a diluted degree. I hope that's not true. I've not seen anything he has said about it. Again, I don't not watch YouTube like Grover said, but I basically watch, what do I watch on YouTube? I watch chess videos, chess streamers. I watch some comedy videos. I watch live concerts for bands that I like. But I don't not watch YouTube. I just don't really watch political shows. I've not seen what he's saying. I am not an apologist for the Maduro regime. I am against authoritarian dictators, and so I'm against Nicolas Maduro. Harvey says, whatever happened to Michael Avenatti? He seems to have dropped off the face of the media spotlight. Wonder why he's not baiting Trump anymore. Yeah, I mean, he was accused of sexual assault, arrested, released. I don't know what happened, but he was not a particularly positive character in the world of politics, so it may not be altogether a bad thing. Let's go to the phones to the 531 area code. 531, what's going on?
Hi, this is Henry from Lincoln, Nebraska. How are
Hey,
you,
Henry.
David?
Good, thanks for calling.
All right, so I'm a first-time caller, so it's a little off guard, but I was curious after seeing that comment what you think about Venezuela. I listen to Kyle a lot, and most of what he says is to do with oil. It's not. I was just kind of curious what you think the motivations are behind our actions there.
Which actions have we taken there?
Just inciting the coup.
Inciting in what way?
Oh, just I'm not. I was just kind of curious about what you think about the whole matter, like as far as like intention that the United States has.
Right. Well, so okay, let's see if we can separate these issues. There is no doubt that the U.S. gets much more interested in countries when there's oil, in controlling or influencing who is in power. And there's no question that American involvement in Latin America has been disastrous for decades. The problem is that I'm a progressive, so I am for institutions of democracy. I'm for free press, an independent judiciary, and standards of living that we can be proud of as opposed to be horrified by. So I'm against Nicolas Maduro. I'm for legitimate elections, and Nicolas Maduro's actions of repressing opposition candidates and what was, by all indications, a completely bogus reelection. I'm against all of that. So I am against Nicolas Maduro. I was against Hugo Chavez. That is not it's populist leftist rhetoric veiling or hiding an authoritarian regime. Okay, so that's number one. Now, the U.S. involvement can be bad, to be criticized, all of that stuff, but we can still say Maduro's got to go, right? So I think that the problem that some people on the left are falling into, and I have no clue what Kyle has said, right? I'm just going off of emails that I get from people. The problem is just because we don't like Trump and Trump is recognizing the interim president doesn't mean we should be supporting Nicolas Maduro because he's a train wreck.
Okay. Well, thank you for the detailed response. I had one little thing, if that's all right.
Yeah.
I remember a while ago, someone mentioned that they had a InfoWars bumper sticker somewhere in public, and you sent them a bumper sticker of your own to cover it up.
Right.
And I've had one at my college for a long time. And so I was wondering if there's a way I could reach out to you about covering that up.
So listen, InfoWars is dead. So I don't know if we should prioritize covering up InfoWars bumper stickers anymore. But if you get in touch, I will still send you one. Although I question whether there might be better bumper stickers we could be covering up now.
Yeah, all right. Thank you.
All right, no problem. D-Ken UCLA sent a super chat. Have you noticed the last 5 Republican presidents are criminals? Nixon, Watergate, Reagan's Iran-Contra scandal, George H.W. Bush, a war criminal, George W. Bush, a war criminal, and Trump, too many to list. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, listen, all presidents make decisions that lead to people dying through foreign policy. That doesn't mean that George W. Bush is not a war criminal or that George H.W. Bush is not a war criminal. I just think that not everything, like with the Me Too movement, things are at different levels. And I think also when it comes to presidential criminality, without defending anybody, there's also different levels. But you're not wrong, D-Ken, UCLA, and I appreciate the comment. All right, I'm out of time. I'm sorry I was not able to get to everybody who's waiting on the phones, including the 13 people that are waiting. Really appreciate everybody who signed up, contributed today, sent super chats, all of that stuff. I will do another stream soon. I don't know if in January, but definitely early in February if tomorrow night doesn't work out. Thanks for joining me.